Good evening and welcome to Mindful Life 248. I'm your host Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. It is currently the 29th of June, nearly to the end of the middle month in the year, nearly to the end of the month. That signals we are halfway through the year. Yep. We're getting there, folks, and it's a Thursday, and on Thursday, we just chill, we're talking, whatever topics are coming up inside of the chat, whatever topics the commenters inside of the chat are looking to talk about, that's generally what we're talking about today. So, what would be the topics on our minds? Yes, she's still up, Roni, she is still quite up, she fell asleep, and then decided to pop back a week in between. Dr. Kublal Singh still alive, the highway is still being... As far as I know, the highway is still being built, yes. You are hearing her, Rooney. You're not hearing wrong. That is exactly who you are hearing. She's letting it be known that, she's still around. But yes, as far as I know, the goodly doctor is still alive. The doctor is still alive and the highway is still going on as far as I know. But yeah, what's on the topic of the night, of the evening? What's on your mind, people? What is your mind full of? Big up Miss Mindful, yes. The little Miss Mindful, big her up. She is getting quite big, so big her up might be the correct thing. Big her up, big up her whole self. Talking about those kind of talks, I know last week there was a murder that shocked the online public in Trinidad and Tobago. Yeah, shocked them to the core. And let it be known, I am talking about this knowing nothing. I know nothing about anything inside there. Let that be known and established from the jump. But I also find it interesting that people, one of the comments that I saw on so many different posts are people that saying like, wow, who would do this? Trinidad really go on 3 years? Wow, Hollywood kill a man for talks by? What do you think of Farley not wanting to release the audit report? I think Mr. Farley is putting himself in deeper and deeper trouble, and as I've said before, I have a suspicion that some of this may end in some legal trouble for some of those involved. But yes, I found it interesting that so many people were lamenting Trinidad going through. How they could kill somebody for talks, but what really going on in Trinidad? They will kill somebody for words and etc. And as I said, I do not know if indeed anyone was killed for anything they said. But I find it interesting that people think that's some kind of impossibility when our number one Trinidad song right now literally talks about that. Tell the we not tech talk. Isn't that literally the catchphrase of the song? We not tech talk. And we not just singers, we real killers. And we don't take talks. Like that is the number one Trinidad song now. The bad boys out there, yes, Ismakaya, the bad boys out there are saying, hey, we don't take talk. And then we're surprised, oh no, someone may have been killed for something they said. I feel like I've heard that song on repeat over the last month, and without a doubt, the song You Living Under Nisi Na, you know the song I'm talking about. 100% you know the song I'm talking about. Without a doubt. You know this top song, the Byron Messiah Talibans. That's what they're saying in the song. I don't believe you all don't know this. Let me see if I'm letting you up just now, Trini Hotep. Let me see if I could pull up the Talibans. I don't believe you all don't know the Talibans, Nisi, What kind of mother are you? Have to keep up with the times. Sure, you was here in Royal Trinidad in Trinity. Nah, I actually wasn't here in Trinidad. Nathan, I saw I listen to old school in it. All right. Hey, Byron, I let you know Byron. I'm not looking for no copyright strike. I'm not playing your music, trying to win anything off your music or make money. This is just for free play purposes. For discussion purposes. You know that song? Don't worry, I ain't playing through the song like a clown.
With the people your mother tell you give from. See that full of man like Islam. If you make I come, you know the enemy, them a pray. I'm seeing calamity, that's how we shoot out the figure Canada G. Make them have a experience, no gravity. Tell a pussy,
you already hear the line?
tell a pussy,
We not tech talk.
people are dead.
The line is literally tell her we'll laugh out. We not tech talk. Violators are dead or something like that. Violators are get what? We not tech talk. Violate people are dead, dog. Okay. Like they're saying it, bro. That's the song. That's the song. Me see. What you need to do is get a radio, turn it on to boom, and don't move it. Every now and again, when you want to know what the street's talking about and you want to lose a few brain cells, you head in and you turn up the volume a little bit to just hear what the street's talking about. Most people listen but don't listen when he says correct. That's actually correct. So if I see a dead dog, the dog is a violator. probably the dog violate the wrong people and he found what he was looking for. But this is my point though. That's the point that I was making. I just find it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny that so many people are up in arms. How is it possible? How is it possible that someone could be shot for talking? Is that where our country is at? And we're singing along to a song that promotes exactly that same thing. So I mean, is it really a surprise? Fully gospel. Well said, Isaiah Micaiah, or is it Micaiah? Well said. Fully gospel, bro. Do you think? Let me jump in. What going on, Trini Hotel? Yep. I'm hearing you, bro.
Big up this in Kitian, you know what I'm saying? Song. But yeah, this is interesting, bro, because I think I made I saw a video by Jumeli Entertainer. Everybody's supposed to know Jumeli Entertainer.
Yeah.
I saw a video and I made a stitch to the video, right? Because he said something about he not coming back, right? So he said the people who make it out of Trinidad and Tobago and leave the country, what are they coming back for? The man, and here we say he specifically referenced a bunch of people that literally involved in the making of dancehall music in the country. So one very popular Prince Wani, who house got shut up while he came back, right? So
not one time. Hotep is not one time in it. It look like every time Swanee touchdown on Seaview is shut.
Facts. That's a fact. So the thing is I found it very interesting, bro. I said, okay. I said, listen, you all have all rights to leave Trinidad and Tobago and never return. I have a problem with the hypocrisy of it all, right? So I made the video and I literally said, listen, it seems very interesting and a lot of Trinidad people, right? You all want to talk about Trinidad's the best place, paradise, land of milk and honey, the culture, multicultural diversity, the people best. But as soon as something go wrong in the country, now Trinidad and Tobago is a lawless, backward place. The people bad, the people is... Yo, people was literally in my comments for this entire week saying more Trinidad is the hood, and American culture better, and Canada more cleaner. I say, alright, you all do all the thing, you all wasn't understanding what I was saying in the video, so I make another video today. What I find very interesting is that the amount of Yank Nation people, you know what I'm saying, the fans now, the stands, I find it real interesting that people really don't understand how the internet works. Like, we could say that murder is wrong, obviously, but we really can't say that people not gonna take disrespect the same way on the internet.
Exactly.
We can't expect for certain personalities to feel untouchable while you making content, a particular type of content, calling out people, talking about people, family. No, it have men on the internet talk greasy about people, family, and now they're not even alive same way. So I'm trying to understand where Trinidad and Tobago people thinking that this is not reality. People get killed every day. Like, nobody asks for this, but that's the reality. Watch your words on the internet.
And you're right. We live in you have to understand the culture we live in. And I am very much aware of that. That's why, if you listen to me speak, I'm not saying that I speak perfectly in everything I say, but I try to be wise in what I'm saying. I'm not trying to offend anybody purposefully. I'm not trying to say anything that I don't have proof of and things that would get people criminally in trouble. Like, some people give their mouths a lot of liberty, and you have to understand, okay, the internet is not real life. The internet runs parallel to real life, as they say, social media especially. But it does affect real life. You could get the feeling like the people you're talking to on the internet aren't real life people, but that's not true. Those are very much real people out there. And as the old song says, real people do real things. So if you continue playing around with some people, I am not surprised when certain things happen. And as I played in the song, there are many people right now in the badman space in Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean that I'm making a note and a point out of they're not taking even the words. There are some songs that allegedly singing the song has gotten some people killed already. So I mean, you're living in a violent country like that. As for the guy who said he's not coming back, I hope he knows he isn't the only person that has a choice in that matter. I hope the Canadian authorities are aware of this choice also, that he doesn't want to come back. I hope he knows that he has to clear that by them first. He doesn't get the choice to just decide that on a whim. And the thing is, my problem is, I wonder how many people fully think through things like that. Because, to tell you honestly, the thought has crossed my mind before. Trinidad, there are certain things in Trinidad that annoy me and frustrate me to the point where I wonder, should I leave this place? And I've heard somebody say it this way, and I kind of agree that leaving basically is saying that I don't think there's anything more that I could do. So if you see me leave, that's what I'm saying. I don't think there's anything more that I could do. But beside that, are you sure that the place that you are going to, it's going to be that land of promise, that perfect place that you have in your mind? What is going to be so much better? What is going to be so much different? And if something over there is not the way you like it, would there be a possibility for you to get a change?
Nathan, can I show something a little probably different into the mix?
Of course.
Does this show or demonstrate in some form, way, or fashion that we have poor communication skills as a population? That we believe the only way we could solve a problem is by attempting directly or indirectly to humiliate someone or persons associated with them and our conflict resolution as a population, as a society, or should I say, the vocal aspect or the more vocal persons in our society, always sees embarrassing someone or belittling them or persons associating with them as giving them a good feeling and making them feel like they have achieved something.
Bro, you're sounding like you're talking as part of my bullying speech. Oh, when no, it's Tuesday gone there, man. Because yeah, there is that side to it, and I think our culture has a bit more of that, and there's a negative and a positive thing. The pick-on side of our culture, to me, I like a certain side of it that it allows Trinidadians to make jokes with each other a little more. Some people talk about Trinis can't take anything seriously and say that as a bad thing. I think to some extent that's actually a positive thing. Life is serious enough. We don't have to be over serious, over mature on every single thing in life. I like some of that, but some of that also leaves room for lots of insultive behavior too, which could land on the opposite. And then I think we see it in the political landscape very often, where you see a lot of insults passing, like in the just regular talk, there are lots of insults passing, and I don't know if that's a lack of communication or if it's just a style. Yeah.
Listen, but we all know behind closed doors a lot of these politicians are good friends and relate to each other outside of the media and the cameras. So why as a population we are allowing that to trigger us to always be so aggressive and argumentative? I am one like arguments. I could be open. I like the backward forward and the banter. However, I would not go to the insultive stage. You need when to say this is the cutoff. Let me sit down and have a reasonable discussion. Let's see where we could meet. Let's see what are the factors. Why our first resort in the situation is to cuss out somebody as a vocal group of persons in the society, because the majority might be reasonable, right, thinking you could sort out a situation, but they may not be as vocal on social media.
And I get you, I agree. But a part of that also is culture. Remember, for a large portion of people, this was their entertainment. This is their entertainment. And the truth is, people do things, I always say, people do things based on incentive, not, hey, baby, people do things based on incentive. So if people see that this gets them attention, and I remember this from school days, but in school, they cost more when they have an audience to cost to, because there is an entertainment side, there's an attention seeking side, and we on the attention giving side, there were a large contingent of people who gave attention or who gives attention to the bacchanal. Regularly when I come on TikTok, I hear there's some kind of real heavy bacchanal going on, and I always tell you, you could ask Rooney. Since the very beginning, Rooney was my informant on all the bacchanal that going on TikTok, because I genuinely didn't know. I could have put my foot on landmines out on TikTok out here and I wouldn't know. I thinking everybody is everybody not to know that this one do talk to this one and this one do this one that, and they actually meet each other already and they spend time in a house. I didn't know all of this bacchanal, but the bacchanal is part of the content too. I regularly talk about this to people who want to do content and stuff like that. Like, be very careful what you do. Be very careful the content that you become known for. Like, I say this about my content. The stuff that I'm known for is talking about issues that I like to talk about. I can never run out of content. My content isn't going to get just monotonous and repetitive, because this is stuff that I like to do, things that I genuine. That's why I could make a video every day and still come on and talk for 2 hours in the night and alive. I'm not running out of things to talk about that I'm interested in. But when your content is bacchanal, bear in mind your audience is going to lead you down the bacchanal road. If from the we're on live 248 now. If from Mindful Live 1 I started off talking about Bacchanal, everyone who entered the live would have expected Bacchanal, and then the next live it's Bacchanal again, and the next live it's Bacchanal, and now I have to go creating and finding Bacchanal to keep giving to my Bacchanal loving audience. It's a toxic cycle. It's a toxic cycle, and so the audience is a side of it. We have lots of Bacchanal lovers, so we have Bacchanal givers. That's just the reality of it.
Like literally.
Hey, can you?
Literally, and that is why I don't understand. Like when, I've been watching a bunch of lives for the past week ever since we found out this news about Kevin. Like I've been listening to people speak.
Good night, Anika.
I'm like, what you all really thought? Like, didn't you all see that the man followers was instigating things, especially women followers? Like, let me really think about it. No, I ain't saying that. I'm saying because let me be real, right? Let's be real. My boy a little effeminate, so when he drag women and women are in the comment section instigating other women getting dragged by a man and all this, when push come to shove, the man talk to the wrong woman crazy, and now the wrong woman going out there hire a man to run up on Twin City Mall.
Hey,
the broad open.
You know that? I don't know.
I know that thing.
Pause. The views and comments are to do like slam. The views and comments expressed by the panel are not necessarily the views and comments of Nathan Sprung and Mindful.
It's not. So what I'm saying is this is the people who talking about this is a mad scene. The person who killing people should be in Ward 1. I'm like, listen, no. The people who are entertained want to see more entertainment. This is how humans just work. As you just say, Nathan, humans don't stick in one place. The Bacchanal must keep going on, and it must get more aggressive and even more aggressive. And it will come down to the point where the Bacchanal go had to take place in different forms now. So for the people thinking that the man follow wasn't instigated and actually wanting all this Bacchanal, that's insane. He wasn't the first Bacchanal like media personality. But let me be for real, man. This is what it is. That your content. Somebody go like your content.
Stay away from that as your content, yes? Rooney, what you saying, nigga? Rooney?
Saying BFFS. You here now?
Yes.
Hello? Okay. Well, I was saying BFFS when Trini was talking now.
What's that? What's
BFFS? BFN for real.
Be for real, man. That's ridiculous.
Wait.
Baby's voice. That voice have me intrigued.
Oh, really? I had a clear. Hi, good evening, Ronnie, Trini, Positive Radio, Nathan, of course.
What's up?
K-Baby?
I just had one thing to say. I think, like, with social media, people put personalities out there, personas, maybe facades or illusions. I think, in all honesty, social media is such a deflection and a defense mechanism. And I think, like, if you really peel back the layers, you would be surprised as to how much we all have in common with regards to real life responsibilities and struggles and the roles we play in our families' lives and whatnot. We could all relate on different levels with regards to being a father or well, not for me, I'm not a mother, but people who are parents could relate, people who are friends, daughters, sons, whatever it is. Reality situation, I did hear that this famous influencer, he is a son. He was a son who used to take care of his mom. So there's a mother at a loss here. He's somebody who's lost to his friends. And I one time watched an interview with Keanu Reeves. And and I think it was Jimmy Fallon who asked him, you know, like, what will people remember you when you're passed? Or something like that, and he said, oh, what do you think will happen when you pass away? Where are you gonna go when you pass away? And I think when I pass away, or anybody pass away, you're gonna be missed. You're just gonna be missed.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? Regardless of what personality was put out there in the media, you are somebody to someone. Anything about it, social media is an illusion. It's what you put out there. It's a facade. But I know Nathan, knowing me on social media, the way that my father might miss me, or my brother, or my nephew, it's not going to be the same. But people have an impact on other people's lives. There's some respect to be had, regardless of what was put out there. That was what they wanted you to see. That was part of the show, the performance. Social media is a stage. But in depth, you mean something to somebody I loved. And so, respect that.
You know,
it's something you cannot come back from.
What you're saying there, K baby, is why for me, I am always very careful about talking about people's death. Like, even people that, in my opinion, went looking for it. Like, even with the Titanic sub the other week and stuff. A life is a life. As you're saying there's value in life. And if that's the way you see, and everyone does not have that view, just bear in mind, everyone does not have that view. But if that's your view, I agree with that view, just by the way. I agree with that view, and I think that's the only view that creates sane societies anyway. And you're right. So how you deal and how you speak about people who pass, you know, there's a respect, etc. People are people, they have that value. I don't disagree at all. I don't think what we were speaking about necessarily had to do with the individual value of a person. It had to do with what you were saying there about social media being a mirage of some sort. You put up a facade, you put up a show for someone, and you want other people to look at that as entertainment or for whatever other reason. The issue is that even if it's just a show you're doing, to some people that you're affecting, it's very real. It's very real. And you see the side of social media, and I didn't actually touch on this when we were speaking about bullying, but who knows, I may have some more school visits to do and we touch more on that. But bullying with social media has taken on a whole different suit, and it, especially on the female side, as someone spoke about different people being more effeminate, etc. There are different, females and males do bullying differently. Psychologically, there are different routes and methods that females and males take to do bullying. Males, by and large, it's physical bullying for the most part. Not saying there isn't others, but for the most part. While on the female side, it's reputation damage, gossiping, backbiting, etc. like that. Because women, by and large, don't put themselves in physical danger as much as men. There's a biological reason for that. I have to get that cup. I will get that cup printed for sure. But the thing is, the problem with that is male bullying. If you have a fella that taps you up every day in school, when you go home, he cannot tap you through the screen. He cannot tap you through the phone. It's not going to happen. The tap done once you reach home. But if you have a girl or a person using the more common feminine style of bullying with reputation damage, gossiping, backbiting, and that verbal assault, and they're using social media, it is inescapable. And the more our lives get entangled with this parallel illusion of social media, the more inescapable it is. There are people whose lives, hey, baby, there are people whose lives are 90% kind of lived on social media. And if you take a serious attack on their social media presence, you could be doing significant harm to them. That's why some of them reach to some crazy levels of self-harm and all of that. And that's why also the consequence of some of it might not be too surprising if it gets drastic. Yeah, but anyway, just so you all know, it's Thursday. It's Thursday. We run Mindful Life Thursday talk. So whatever is your topic or view, you could jump in the live and let us know. Bring up a topic or a question or a comment.
Because for me, what impacted me the most in this scenario is, yes, you had the death of a very influential individual, and I'm of the view a lot of us, if not all of us, was entertained by this individual at some point in time in our lives. Some point in time, we probably was stressed out and frustrated, and we saw some of these statements, and it helped relax us. Some of us use back some of his words and to share at others. So, and for me though, what is shocking is the response is making me think, where are we as a society in conflict resolution? Where are we thinking as a people? Are we lacking communication skills? Is this saying that we have a large cross-section of the population that can sit and make reasonable decisions in tense scenarios?
Bro, I don't think that's unique to Trinidad. I think that's anywhere in the world. It's just that Trinidad has the opportunity because we have a heightened level of violent crime and easy access to criminals and gangs. But all over the world is like that. All over the world, there are many people. I find, like, in general, Trinidadians generally could take a lot more talk. If you ever had conversation, go on Twitter and start to converse with some of those Americans. By the time you prove them wrong once, one little negative statement, and they're ready to cuss 260 characters of cuss words at you. It's not a Trinidad only thing. It's a human nature. People don't like to be shown up.
But I have to say, Nathan, Trinidadians are hella creative when it comes to standing up for themselves. I have to say, we have a colorful way of standing up for ourselves. Big up Trinidad, because I swear, so many things you can hear people. I'm like, wow, like,
yes.
So, but with regards to bullying, I have been bullied before. I'm not gonna lie about that, but at the end of the day, I have become one of those people who have been grateful for it, because I learned that it was a life lesson. It was a lesson throughout the journey where I realized, hey, it ain't personal. If you can't tell me my middle name, you can't tell me nothing to hurt me. You just talking out of your behind. As far as I'm concerned, you don't know me. You understand? Like, it is a life journey. It takes a minute to reach there. But for people who haven't reached to the point to realize that it's really not that deep, it's gonna hit them differently. And we have to be mindful of our words. Similarly, for an example, right? No, this is not necessarily bullying. It could be a customer service complaint. If you go into an establishment and you're waiting for a long time, or the attitude, the customer service, blah, blah, blah. A lot of the times, I would say probably 95% of the times, it ain't nothing to do with you, It's personal. Them just in their mood, or they just not fit for the job, or they had a bad day, or their supervisor, whoever it is, or they had a conflict they're dealing with personally. A lot of the times, when somebody lashes out on you, reality of the fact, we have to be realistic and dig deep to understand it's really not that personal. Obviously, you don't feel affronted and embarrassed or humiliated because this person, had this attack on you. Like, you came with good intentions, and it was basically blocked by their negative energy. But we as people be self-conscious and realize it really don't have much to do with us. We get to that mindset and be like, yo, you need a moment, I'm gonna leave you alone.
Okay, you might be right. You might be right. From the person who is speaking perspective, they didn't mean it personally. But for the person who is receiving it, they may take it personally. And, like, I agree with what you're saying. If I'm giving someone advice, I would advise them, try not to take things personally. Everything isn't personal. People are dealing with sometimes hundreds of other people per day. You are not that big in their mind. Sometimes when we take things so personally, it's actually narcissism to some extent. We think too highly of ourselves. Everybody isn't focused on you. Like, give an ease up to that. Okay, agree. But nonetheless, we have to be understanding that in reality, people are going to take things personally. They are going to. And when you say something, even if you say it not meaning it personally, someone very likely will take it just like that. Ronnie, what's up?
Hello, as you say that, because this is where I was coming to talk about in the first place, not to, derail all your conversation, but I go and derail all your conversation.
Derail it now, girl.
Sorry. Anyway, so we are talking. Earlier we was talking on, I was telling Trini Hotep, I don't know how to pronounce that.
Hotep, yes.
About the, about the hair thing, right? Because, listen.
We're going to it now,
I'm thinking about it, right? Because, sorry?
No. Read say about it here.
It, right? Yeah. Again, I had to go back to my friend who's a religious person who would have been the one to tell me about, in the Bible, about men not having long hair and whatever. And I was like, again, if the school rule wasn't just a rule, because you cannot go to CUC, right? You know CUC, right, Nathan?
Mm-hmm.
Or Harmon, and to wear jewelry in the graduation. You can't do it.
You can't even go to their campus in a pants. You can't go to their campus in a pants. You can't eat meat on the ground.
Nothing that changed that rule now.
Well, maybe they did, but you couldn't.
It's more than just a rule.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, what I was saying is, if it's more than just a rule and more of a religious belief, is that it should be then taken more serious. Now, I understand, especially in the last video where we was watching, where he was talking about rules, they're not carrying out the rules and whatever. And I also was thinking on this, and I say, people just put their children in these schools. These schools don't beg these children to come to these schools. But you know who the school does beg to come to the school?
Athletes.
Footballers. Swimmers.
Mm-hmm.
And those kind of people, they just beg them to come into the school.
Correct.
So that's probably why they just leave them with the no rule kind of thing. And you know something, they don't care if these children succeed. All they care about is that they bring them their accolades during the time frame. And when they done school, hard luck, they didn't get any passes. Bye. That's just really it. It had a fella from who came over to country for Form 6, and he come from QRC. And I was like, astonished how you come from QRC. It didn't make sense.
It happened.
Anyway, that's what I was thinking about. And that was just where I was going down the road with this whole here thing. I think it's a lot more than just rules, a lot more than just religion, a lot more than just food asking to come to the school and all of these. That was my point.
Yep. I agree. I agree with what you're saying there, Ronnie. The school, in terms of the rules, if it isn't enforced all along, it makes it a bit strange when you come to this point. However, in the person's own admittance in the original post, they said the administrators were telling them for over a year about this here issue. So it's not actually that they just sprung it upon them at the last moment. That is not true. According to their own admittance, they said over a year. And I heard some people say, well, why didn't the school do something about it before this point? And I'm asking, what did you want the school to do about it? Let's think about this reasonably. If the school did any kind of disciplinary action about here before this point, what do you think would have been the outcry in the media? If the school suspended them, and someone posted they were suspended because of their hair, what do you think the outcry would have been? If the school did any kind of disciplinary action, what would the outcome have been? But you see, the difference with this thing is I heard tutor talk about the rights of the student, and whatever you're doing in enforcing your school rules, you have to make sure that it doesn't transgress the rights of the students and the constitution of the country. And maybe this is the point I was making earlier, so in a previous live. I agree that on the school rules side, the schools should be allowed to dictate which rules they have. This is how the schools enact their discipline. They should have the right to do that. However, when you're talking about the fact that the government sponsors part of these schools, the government pays for some of this, then this is literally the moral laws issue we was having. Yeah. Then I'll tell you the difference here, though, Reeve. I'll tell you the difference. Then you have the issue where if the government is paying for this, you want it to be able to, everyone in the society must be able to access it. So that makes things a bit difficult. But on the individual school board side, I think the school should be able to enforce their rules. That's on them. That's their prerogative. And I said it before, I find it straight. In this also, another piece I wanted to add into this that I read. Someone, just on positive, I just want to add some more information into the discussion. Someone pointed out that pictures were taken of only the boys of African descent, but there were boys of other ethnic groups who were also forbidden from doing the same thing for the same reasons. So this is why I said in the very first place, this statement was made with a well poisoning. At the very start of making this statement, they poisoned the well, speaking about racism, etc., etc. When racism is not this topic. This topic is not about racism. It's about whether a school gets to enforce its school rules. The schools have that. They have that. And as I said, I don't know when next the school would have enforced this. People are saying that, okay, they should have done this earlier. What should they have done earlier? You see, at this moment, this isn't a school activity. This is an activity of the school board. It's done in a church. The school, you don't have to do this to get your education. This isn't part of your rights to an education in this country. So you don't have a right to walk across our church auditorium floor. You don't have that right. We determine who gets to walk across, and those who followed our school rules get to walk across. I think that actually makes some sense when you understand that where else would they have done the punishment? Positive, you're going to say something. So what's the limit of the rules that they could set? School not meant to be military in this era. Just now, positive, just to answer Reeve. To answer you talking about the morality in the laws issue. I agree. And I always talk about, I hate the idea that the law is the law. I hate that idea. But I said this in the previous live. A school isn't the same thing as a country. You decide as a parent that I am going to sign my child up. You're requesting that your child go to this school. You want your child to go to this school. It's not the same thing. And all schools have abstract rules. Some schools have a rule that your socks needs to be 3 inches above your ankle. That rule isn't a rule about logic. That's why I say my problems with the law being the law has to do with a country when all of us are subjected to this day in, day out. But all of us are not subjected to the school rules. You didn't have to send your child to Trinity. They are government schools. And this is the part that really upsets me. You want the benefit of the school. You see, people talk about archaic. Archaic means old and old-fashioned. Archaic means old-fashioned. The words Sanatan Dharma Mahasabha are words that may have been echoed by humans for 5,000 years. If you send your child to a school with Sanatan Dharma Mahasabha written out above the entire school, how are you going to complain that your child is subject to archaic rules? You sent them to a school being run by an archaic organization. If you don't want archaic schools, if you don't want archaic rules, send them to the government schools. Some government schools have those same rules. I am not sure which government schools those are. I really am not. Because nearly every government school I know, if they try to enforce those rules, they're going to get in a lot of trouble real quickly. And you know what? Positive, just before you go, you know what upsets me? Most parents know that they don't want the indisciplined conditions of a school without rules. But you want to send them to a school with rules and undo the rules. I don't care if you think they're archaic personally. I'm sorry. I don't care that you think they're old-fashioned. Because religions are archaic by nature. They're old.
Ronnie,
All the major religions in Trinidad are over 1,000 years old.
everyone on the live, I just want to ask Ole, Ole, don't like color that Nathan wearing because it's the color. You know, it's my favorite color? The gray area. So Ole, continue. Because everybody making valid points. I agree with everyone. I definitely do, because I do agree with school policies, but I'm just saying before I don't have, and I'm making my point now. I'm just saying, yo, big up you Nathan with the gray color because it's a gray area. So continue positive. I love it.
No, I disagree with this. I probably might be the person in the process to graduate, let me just say our graduation was cancelled, quote unquote, because of bad behavior. But that's another topic for another time. What I'm saying is, I like my hair. For me, my hair carries meaning. For me, my hair signifies the rite of passage between me and my father. I come from a very hairy family. So how could you now come in a scenario like that? That for me is my personal point of view. And I found it to be so disingenuous and disrespectful. If the hair was unkept, if the hair was untidy, if it was finding grass strands in the hair and it was in a mess, I do have a problem. But from what I would have seen, though, the hair was neatly plait and neatly kept. I don't see a problem with us not having that. If parliamentarians, allow me to make my point. I don't see the reason for it. We often complain of schools producing cookie cutter students. One of the ways to be creative is in here. How could we be promoting hair dressing in the schools as a co-curricular activity, and you know these young men? This is my perspective. To have that kind of hair. Who plants these guys here? Obviously are the young ladies. Most likely these guys are young ladies plaiting their hair, from my observation, from my assumption. I found it very disrespectful in my view, religious or non-religious, because there are some religions that will shave their whole head and leave one little thing in the back, and I am almost certain that would not have become a problem in this scenario. So for me, I honestly believe if the hair was kept, no problem. If they had 3 and 4 seams running down the back of the shirt, and I don't want to, I no problem with some of them basic things.
Wait, positive. I'm glad you said that. Wait, positive. Just now, Rooney, I just want to ask positive some questions on what he's saying here. To follow this.
Positive, I see you.
To follow this view down. So why would you have a problem if they made a spider web? You ever made the spider web on your shirt? If you made a neat, tidy spider web on their shirt.
Things that I have seen Trinidad students do, we don't dare do them things in Tobago.
Why?
Because of the type of parents we have, the type of grandparents we have, and they might walk past young country and go with a bus mouth.
So
there are certain things that we generally.
But I want to know positive. I want to know. You're saying you don't have a problem if the hair is plaited or anything. You find that rule doesn't make sense. But should they stop children from making a spider web? Because trust me, that spider web is real art. It's creativity. I see Selector SK. I don't know if he's still there over on Instagram. But him and I went to school together. We used that some art. It used to take hours to do. So is anything wrong with the spider web? Positive. I'm talking to positive. I want positive. Do you think the spider web would be wrong?
For me, I have never experienced that. I've never seen that happen in my time going to secondary school. I haven't seen it before. I haven't seen it after. I was amazed when some of my youth leaders in church was telling me about those styles. And for me, I don't think for a graduation, for that formal type of setting, I would recommend that type of thing for that type of setting. And I would even further to see why. I would allow the hairstyle because when this argument started, I think it was with a young lady a couple years ago, I began to investigate it. Cornrows were a form of identity in that kind of era. One of the reasons for shaving the hair of Afro males is for them to lose their identity.
Where did you read that? I've heard positive. I've heard a lot just now. I've heard a lot of people say this, but when I tried to chase this down, it went down to somebody who said that they used to plot escape slave routes into cornrows in the back of people's hair and that kind of stuff. But the strange thing to me is my study of African history. When you look through most of the ancient African hairstyles, cornrows weren't, at least the cornrows that we see now especially, almost none of the hairstyles those boys had were typical African hairstyles. Those hairstyles those boys had were black American hairstyles. So let's not mama guy ourselves like this is some kind of link back to the ancestors in Africa. Let's not lie to ourselves. It's black American pop hairstyle.
And I am not, and in this matter, I would live. But I personally have the view, once the hair was neat and not out of order, I don't see a problem with it.
And
these crazy seams on the shirt for that type of occasion is a no.
But positive, that's what I'm saying to you. The creative seams on the shirt could be neat, and the same argument that could be made for the hair, it's neat and it's self-expression, could be made for the shirt seams. And that's the point I'm making. When Reeves was talking about so they could do any rules and you'll just follow that. No, you determine which school you go to. You know the school rules when you enter the school. You could decide these rules are not the rules that I want. So one of the examples I've made, Astra girls. Astra has a rule, their skirt has to be 3 inches under the knee. Yes, some girls will buy that skirt.
Mandatory rule across schools?
Yes. 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 And they enforce it. They enforce it.
We have these school policies when your child gets into the school.
Yeah.
It's not like a new thing.
Exactly. And they enforce it very seriously.
Your child gets admitted.
They enforce it so seriously because there are just now there are mosques on some of those school compounds, on most of the compounds. So they enforce it very seriously. Your girl child could have bought a skirt under her knee in Form 1, gotten a growth spurt in Form 2, and now the skirt is over her knee. And how dare they tell you that you have to go and buy a whole new skirt? Your child have a skirt and it's the right color. How dare they? It's the school rules that you agreed to.
What is the reason for the skirt being 3 inches below the knee?
What?
Because it's a Muslim school.
No, but Nathan, remember, there are Muslim people of the Islamic faith and who are Muslim. When you see them going to a government school, they still uphold their own personal religious discipline and beliefs.
Yep.
You see girls go with long skirts.
With the
But the is that what I think, honestly, and this is why I keep saying it's a great area. The minute your child gets admitted to a school, as great of a name as the school is, you want to send your child to the school, you as a parent know that there are rules and there are policies to abide by. Now, I do agree that certain people do get privileges probably because they're athletes, like you were saying.
I agree with that.
And
That's true.
It is strange because I did hear a teacher say this. It is strange that all of a sudden they want to enforce it for the graduation as opposed to throughout the 5 years the child might be there. But the reason why I'm also saying it's a great area is because there was also a story some years ago about an adult male in a company. Because of his hairstyle, he got written up for his hairstyle. So where does it come? Where's that line? Because at the end of the day, we have to understand that there are, this is what I'm saying, it's a gray area. There are cultural significance behind a person's hair, and the number one rule is always to keep it neat and clean.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of people who keep their hair neat and clean and stay true to their culture, their ethnicity, and their style. And it should not be a problem because we have to acknowledge at the end of the day that there are various people of different ethnicities. There are people of different styles, and they do take care of themselves. They do groom themselves properly. Their hair is neat. Their hair is well styled and taken care of. They don't. A lot of guys too. They play with that barber appointment. You know, when they make that appointment with the barber, you had to go. You understand? Like, they do their best to upkeep these grooming rules. But in schools, at the end of the day, bottom line, the minute you admit your child to a school as a parent and being their guardian, you are aware of certain policies. I'm not saying that these policies should still be intact. Maybe we should be more inclusive of different hairstyles and grooming stuff, whatnot, to keep whatever. We have to be realistic of the fact that any times that we are living in, identity does matter. Ethnicity matters, and being proud of the type of hair you have should be considered into these rules. And a lot of the times, these rules are literally in the stone age. But when I went to the government school that I went to Tranquil, this was never an issue. Similarly to teachers looking out now, it wasn't an issue. But it's an issue now. Of course, now it's a problem. Now, it's weird to me. I thought we should be a little, I don't know.
This is the issue I'm having with Reeve. Roni, you are next. Sorry, you are next. Don't worry, you are next. I just want to address Reeve before it scroll up too far. Reeve, this is not the same thing as government mandated dress codes. This is a uniform. We have uniform schools in Trinidad and Tobago. Here's my view on this. I find we should leave the public schools to do as they please, so Reeve could send his child to the school that is allowing no uniform, just like in the States. No uniform. You could dress as you want. You could do as you please. Just now. And we have the private board schools that are run by the denominational boards, and parents who do not like Positive Radiation spoke about there. There are some schools that allow the girls to sit down on the stairs and plait the boys' hair. Now, some parents would not want their child to go to a school where schoolgirls are plaiting schoolboys' hairs during the school period. There are some parents who don't want that. So here's the deal. If I am a parent, I don't care for that. Let me send my child to the denominational school where they ensure all of us have our hair cut and the girls have their hair in one with a ribbon. Because I remember in my school, people talk about the race side of it. I know many central schools that have struggles with Indian girls and dyeing their hair and the hairstyle. This isn't an unusual topic only for one race. It's not. It really isn't. Some people are just ignorant of the fact. So let's have the both. And you know what will be almost sure? The schools with more rules will continue to perform better. And then we'll have these no-rule children with their no-rule parents wanting to carry them to the ruled school and change it to the no-rule school. I find this so unfair. If I have a son and I want him to go to a school that demands they cut his hair, that has a rigid disciplinarian system, I want that for my son. It shouldn't exist in Trinidad. It shouldn't. No, I don't want a military school. I don't want a military school. I want school rules. Roni, you go. Right.
Okay, I think we keep bypassing this whole thing, Just like how in the just schools, right? They have the mosque on the compound and you have to dress respectfully for the sake of the mosque. This is an Anglican school. And we keep forgetting that this is a religious school. I would keep saying again and again, it has religions where you cannot have hair on your head as a man, right? I know of a fella, he's one of the deacons or something like that in a church, and he had grown out his hair and everything, and for communion or whatever, they tell him, you can't do the service.
Really, just a parallel pause there. Just a parallel pause there. You're saying that, is the thought coming to my mind? Imagine like some Trinis sign up for a monastery to go on, in those Asian monks where they shave their head full and they have the vows of silence, and they carry the child for the monastery. And when they see the monks, they vex. I want my child to say, by the way, you cut your hair. How easy is it to cut my child hair in this monastery? Racist people. Bullface. Real bullface, we.
Also, I would like to say something. We forget that we have come out of 2 years of pandemic, right? The school children in particular. They would have been home and free to do as they wish. and I believe a lot of them would have come out to the school and act as they are still at home, doing as they wish. So the school now has to take more drastic measures to get people back in line. And people can say, oh, why is that important back in line, blah, blah, blah. Rules are rules, and it's not a stupid rule, especially when it is a rule based on their belief, right? Which is where I draw the line. I would never want to see anybody put up any post about Hamas SDA saying, look, my daughter wanted to wear her earrings and didn't let her cross the stage. Of course, they did not allow it. And she should not, because she would know, they would know, the parents would know that you are sending a child to an Adventist school where they do not allow you to wear jewelry, and you cannot come into my school and demand that you wear your jewelry, cross your stage, cross our stage. In your jewelry, you aren't permitted to do that. And I know it would have a lot of people who would not, once their religion kind of align with it, they will kind of see the justification in it. But from the time it's not their religion and they don't see it as much of a big deal, it's like, who are you to tell people what to do with their children? But think about your religion, whatever religion that is. And think, what is a rule in your religion that other people don't hold to? And if it makes sense to keep, then keep. But I don't think so.
I like what you say there, Rooney. Okay, baby, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I had a schoolmate, a great person. He was a Boba Shanti. I remember even one time in music class, it was like a free period, so the music teacher asked him about his religion, and we all got to learn something about it. And so he obviously, it was never an issue because he always kept his hair wrapped, right? So when a child is admitted into a school, obviously there's not going to be a fight against his religion, being a Bobo Shanti and having his hair how he is. He was admitted to school, he was accepted into his school, that was what his marks got him into. And say, you know, whatever school that's in the media now, that was the school he went to. I don't think they would have come and said, well, you have to shave your hair. I don't think so.
Yeah, hey, listen, KBB. Go ahead, when you finish.
Because of the fact that the other hairstyles that were portrayed were just hairstyles, it had nothing to do with religion and principle and stuff like that. You understand? He was admitted to the school. His parents went him to orientation. Teachers would have had an opportunity. The principal would have had an opportunity to say, well, you know, it's part of your religion, so it's respected, it's fine, you know?
KBB, I really like what you are saying. Case, Gerald Llanos, there's no case law, as far as I know, in Trinidad for schooling and here like that. There's for job, and job isn't the same thing as schooling. And our concordat is a very strong legal document that allows a pretty wide range on that. And as Travis Paltu points out over on Instagram there, the National School Code of Conduct, which is legally binding, leaves the rules of dress and grooming up to the individual school rules. So yeah, try to take them to court and see where it leads. I urge you to try. And I like what you're saying, KBB, because I think a lot of this has some gaslighting in it. Like, people are trying to make us pretend like we don't see what we see. I live in Trinidad and Tobago. Yeah. I have lots of black friends. I know that lots of black youths reach 16 and all of a sudden claim that they're Ras and I'm a Rasta to be allowed to grow their hair in that rebellious phase. I remember in school days, just as you were saying there, KBB, there were some Rastafarians who were Rastafarians from their family, and they would have come in with their head wrap from Form 1, and I promise you, no one is telling them cut their hair for grads. I promise you. But when you start to grow your hair 6 months before the end of Form 5, and then all of a sudden saying, you know, this is religious reasons, you know, and I'm trying to hook back in with my black people, and none of the hairstyles are typical African hairstyles. The hairstyles are black American pop artist hairstyles. Like, bro, we could see
So
You aren't doing Bantu nuts. You aren't going back to Bantu rose. That's not what you're doing, bro.
so between Afro, that and
No,
open
I
Afro is
think
not
that it should be celebrated. I believe, hold on, positive, give me a minute. I think it should be celebrated.
Yes, Reeve, I did. Just by the way. Yes, I did.
The Bobo Shanti and it being a religious thing, like obviously, that is different. That's a different thing. I think though the times that we are living in, we do need to respect ethnicity and culture. I do think because even the situation with Kim Kardashian and she wanted to come out with a line called Kimono because it kind of rhymed with her name, it was still a form of the Japanese and cultural appropriation and what the kimono really meant.
I find she could have do it.
What I'm saying is that we do need to, at the end of the day, respect cultures. We do need to respect ethnicity, and we do need to respect certain things. What I'm saying, though, is that if you're going into a school and your child happens to be of a religious belief of any Bobo Shanti, let's say, you understand? And you go in there, that's different as opposed to maybe like you're going in and like Nathan was saying, 6 months before graduation, you decide to grow out. Yeah, that's a different situation. I'm not saying we should punish people for growing out their hair and their natural hair. That's to be appreciated. Because like I said, you go into a professional job, you keep your hair neat, you keep your hair clean, and it's fine, or whatever. You abide by certain policies, obviously. But at the end of the day, we have to be consciously aware in our social times, our socio-economical times, and realize that we do have to appreciate ethical and cultural differences and realize that really does change a person's mind and way of thinking. They have their beliefs, they have their style. Why does individuality become a crime? Why?
Hey, hold up, guys. You go ahead, bro.
Yeah. Listen. My name is Trini Hotep. I don't think people understand what Hotep means in Trinidad and Tobago. That's fine. But here's the
I
thing.
do.
I know you do. No, Hotep is an Egyptian word. It means peace. But it's regularly known in the community. But anyway, I am all for black empowerment and I know cultural stuff. But I think this is bordering on socialism. Like America regularly has this problem, right? With the private Christian schools, especially. Oh Lord, American secularism is the worst thing to ever hit the planet. Like Christian private schools in America get demonized for having rules, and regularly the leftist people who send their children to the school, Christian schools that have to pay money and want to change rules and radicalize it into left leaning. This is ridiculous. Listen, I say this, y'all. In Trinidad and Tobago, you get to rock any hair you want in the middle of the road. You see, the good thing about a society is in the public, you get to be ethnically diverse, you get to have your hairstyles. But when it comes to people's private business, meaning that private schools, private entities, they get to set whatever rules they want. This has nothing to do with respecting cultural anything. Because here's the thing. Any man Jack that want to enter the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force has to cut their hair. It's just a general rule of thumb. Right? You want to join this, you cut your hair. You want to join the police, you cut your hair. Don't have no tattoos. Tattoos is a cultural thing in many different cultures, but they can't have tattoos. So the thing about it is this is, no, I think we have to understand with this thing is that y'all want certain things, y'all got to make it. Like I regularly tell black people this. Y'all want your own rules? I granted. Make your own schools. Make your own schools, make your own centers, make your own businesses, and put your black people, employ your black nepotism inside in your business, in your schools, and do your thing there. Because I don't think that people quite understand is that y'all can come to other people's establishment and tell them, no, free up the place. exist because we also exist. No, make your own things. You can't want to be a Bobo Shanti man and go in a Christian school and want to rock your Bobo Shantinism inside of there. No. Those are going to respect it. Like, behave on yourself, please.
You know, what you're saying there, and I'm glad you linked that there because it links to what KBB was talking about. KBB was saying we have to respect the individual cultures, etc., etc. What we need to understand is things like we have in Trinidad where we have the Concordat that stops the state from forcing change of rules on the private schools. This is actually how you get to keep individual cultures. I hope you all know that if we get what some people are asking for here, where the state goes into every school and demands that every school follows the rules according to how the state sees it, this is how you get the decimation of individual cultures. Things like our Concordat is what allows us to at least attempt to do actual multiculturalism. So the Hindus are allowed to educate their children into Hinduism without anybody stopping them. That's how you get to keep that culture. If we stopped that and the government ran this from the cradle to the grave is government education, secular education, those individual cultural instances that we see, we are not going to see them anymore. The reason we have that individuality is because we protect it. And I agree with what you're saying there, Trini Hotep, in that if you want something, go do it yourself. A lot of the blacks in the United States, for example, for a long time were fighting over affirmative action. And that was just knocked down. I am very happy for this in their Supreme Court. It was just thrown out either today or yesterday. Just thrown out because it was discrimination. Lots of blacks were saying, well, we were historically discriminated against. And look, we aren't getting into Harvard or Stanford or those top schools. So you know what you have to do? Now you have to cheat for us. You have to give us a higher boosting mark. And what ended up happening, as I spoke about the other night, talking about Asian discrimination, what ended up happening is an Asian with like 99% would have not gotten into Harvard, while a black person with 50% would have gotten in. And here's what happens when that happens. You think the society doesn't tell? What that does is now every black person's education has a question mark over it. You did not bring up black people. You just made all of their educational qualifications questionable. That's what you did. And that's what they were doing. I am very happy they threw it out. But I believe some of the people with the socialist thinking, Jared, I find you have some socialist thinking here, bro. Some of the people with socialist thinking would have been very pro-affirmative action. Yes, that's how we help the blacks. And since black grades have just been dropping comparative to everyone else. No, that's not how you help people. Like, if you want a school with plaques, go make a school with plaques. Simple as.
And here's the thing, I just want to add on something quick, Gerard, before you speak. I just want to say too, is that the times that we live now, a lot of people are crying out for more discipline in schools and stuff like that. So when these rules are implemented and discipline comes to be and stuff like that, I'm not saying it's a right rule to have. I'm just saying when schools are implementing disciplinary action, we have to let them do so. Just due to the fact that a lot of people are crying about these school children again and stuff like that. Like, some discipline is required. And there's so much the parents could do. And there's so much the teachers could do, because majority of the time the teachers are with the kids. So these disciplinary actions have to be enforced. It does. Because at the end of the day, the first thing they're going to say is that these children are out of hand and stuff like that. So when they have certain disciplinary actions at home and at school, and we have to understand that these schools are trying their best. They're not parents, but they have these policies in place in order for parents to understand that they will be enforced due to the fact that we are not their parents, but you understand the rules we have. So something has to be done. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry to say, but this is not the institution for you. It's not.
Correct. And as I've said, Jared, right before you go, And as I've said before, the rules and policies in a lot of these schools, it's not about making sense. 3 inches above your ankle for socks is not about making sense. It's about having a specific rule. It's to train discipline. Like, I don't know how many of you did athletics. I did some athletics. Training, there are things where they tell you to do something, not about the logic of the thing you're doing, but about the discipline of getting you to do it. It's about training discipline. That's it. The hair isn't literally about the hair. It's about discipline. It's why in the military, they train them to cut their hair and keep a clean shave too. Discipline. They tell you to press your clothes before you go to school. If you go to school with rumpled clothes, that is outside the school rules. Like, really, to tell you the truth, since I left school, I iron more than that, but I iron very rarely since I left school. But during school days, every morning you iron in. I hated it. What is the point? What is the point? The cloth covering my skin, you're not seeing me naked. Why the thing must be as smooth as possible? There's no logical reason for this. But it's part of the school rules. The aim is to train your discipline. And okay, maybe you think these group of rules aren't in line with what you like for training your discipline. Okay, you go find another group of rules that are in line with it. Bali says a lot of rules are about discipline, but some are there for specific reasons. That's true, Bali, without a doubt. Without a doubt. There are some there for very specific reasons, and I don't doubt some may be discriminatory in nature. Yo, Gerard, what's going on, bro?
Shocked to what you all are saying, guys.
I think we just shock you every night. Every night we just do it. I don't know how you don't come back here.
I swear you all do. Alright. So let us start with do legal research this hourly night.
But the thing with the legal issue on this, Gerard, I'm not buying the legal issue on this, Gerard, because the ministry spoke about this, tutors spoke about this, lawyers spoke about this, and there isn't a legal angle here. So I'm not buying that.
Yeah, I'm not going to part because you're making me feel like my brain right now. More than this,
Please allow me to demonstrate.
Go ahead. Sorry for cutting you. Go ahead.
Prior to the Equal Opportunities Act, so there's a law now. There was a case which I can find which spoke to admissions for Bobo Shanti and admissions for also Muslim children into secondary schools, where it was legally set aside that a school does not have the ability to discriminate on religious grounds. This is in statute. Let us go forward. There is a recent case law that preserves the right for people to observe their religious headdress and their religious situations in the armed forces. So, police cannot stop people from being Bobo Shanti or cannot stop people from wearing Muslim headgear.
Have you seen a Bobo Shanti police in Trinidad?
Not yet.
Why do you think that is? Do you think it's that no Rasta in Trinidad ever wanted to be a police?
What I am saying to you, sir, is the police are not allowed. It is already settled in law.
Of course they are not allowed. Yeah, sure.
The police are not allowed to discriminate.
Hijab. I've heard of that, but yeah, go ahead. I'll listen.
It is no practical difference between a hijab and a ras. It is an expression. It's an expression of religious belief. There's no practical difference between it. So there's no legal way you could stop a Bobo Shanti from being a police.
Well, I find that very strange that there are no Bobo Shanti police then. No Bobo want to be police? Huh? Oh, so you think because Fire Burner Babylon, no police want to get inside Babylon and be inside, no Rasta want to get inside. Come on, I know Gerard are asking you this tongue in cheek. I know Rastas that went up and they were rejected. I know them.
They didn't go to the colony and speak to legal counsel because you know very well the colony have brilliant lawyers.
Right?
And Gerard, here's the thing. The nature of nearly all of these things is there are so many different areas they could reject you that regardless of what you say, you could say it's about your ass, they will say it's not about your ass, but they will reject you nonetheless. These legal things that you're talking about, they don't function in reality like that.
This part of the point of the matter of this contribution is that discrimination is illegal at Privy Council.
Yes.
In Trinidad and Tobago case law, in Trinidad and Tobago statute law.
I like that.
So the Concord Act or any other thing we were talking about tonight does not trump the Constitution. It doesn't trump the Equal Opportunities Act, and it doesn't trump case law.
Okay, I agree with you, Gerard. But Tita, just to put a pin right here before you go on, so something for you to think about this. The tutor president spoke about this also. And bear in mind, when you say discrimination, you have to be thinking discrimination on what? So they were not discriminated against because they were allowed to write their exam, they were given their certificate. You have no right, you do not have a right to walk across the Anglican church stage. There is no constitutional right to do that. And what they forbade them from doing was something that was outside of the school rights. So they did not have their rights transgressed upon. Bear that in mind also.
If they argue that they have their rights transgressed upon and they are willing to litigate,
they will lose. I will put money on that one. Gerard, I want to wager this one.
What I'm saying to you all at this point is we habitually tread a very dangerous line that people who usually get away with, we get away with it in Trinidad and Tobago because we are not a just society.
What line is that?
If some of the things that we do, some of the we do in institutions it would go a different way. That's all I'm saying. As it's really.
If some of the things, I didn't hear the last piece you say. You could repeat that, please?
There are some things that we do. Remember, I sent you that message about
structural racism, yeah.
Structural versus institutionalized. And which one is it? It's a deep situation. I don't get to argue that tonight. I'm just saying, I'm pointing out what you all are speaking about, what you have been speaking about for the last 10 minutes runs counter to the Constitution, counter to case law, and counter to international.
It does not. And what I would say, Gerard, I would say that you have not, and I know you talk these argument topics and going down to the legal side. I would say that you have not proven the assertion you're making here. You have not proven that it's this. Wait. I'll tell you where we need to prove. I'll tell you where we need to prove. I know. Okay, but you're saying that it runs counter to the Constitution, and I'm saying it does not. And the reason I'm saying it does not run counter to the Constitution, because the Constitution does allow schools to make up dress code and grooming laws and rules and policies. That's not outside the Constitution. There is the Equal Opportunities Act that has a carve-out for religious exemptions there. I don't believe any of these boys made a claim for religious exemption, and it would be interesting to see if they did, because you may have to prove such a thing. So that's one. And two, the claim of the Post was not about religious exemptions here. The Post wasn't saying that the school was biased against Rastas. The Post was saying that we should be able to grow our hair however we want to grow our hair. And there's no case law or constitutional anything that says in a school you could grow your hair how you want to grow your hair. There's no law that protects that right. There's no right to that. The school has a right to determine their grooming and their grooming and uniform policy, and their grooming and uniform policy was determined. I would be very interested to see if one of these students would claim that they are indeed a Rastafarian and would like to take this case all the way to the Privy Council. It would be very interesting to see them attempt to fight the Anglican board, the Church of England board, carry it to the English Privy Council, and I'd be very interested to see how that goes.
Oh, come on. That is never happening. The thing...
The question for Gerard, if I can ask.
Just now, let Hotep go, then KBB, then Gerard. Yeah, Hotep. Okay, go ahead, Gerard. Conclude.
I don't want us to miss what happened today in the Supreme Court in the US.
Yeah.
Let us remember.
I love it.
Let's remember that SCOTUS and the Supreme Court are not jurisprudence appointments. They are political appointments.
Yes.
The Supreme Court of the United States is not based on what's good law. It's based on politics.
I wouldn't necessarily say that. I'm not going to let that one just go out there. I'm not going to besmirch the Supreme Court like that. I'm not going to besmirch the Supreme Court like that, because wait. I just want all of the, I know you're talking, but I want to make sure I clarify what you're saying as you put it out there. The Supreme Court of the United States is a political appointment, but all of those appointments are reviewed by the Congress and the Senate, with opposing senators and opposing Congress people fully drilling them about their history on law and their views on law. So it's known before they get in there. And as we talk about political appointments, in case you're going down the side that the people who decided to throw out the black affirmative action or it was a political decision, just bear in mind the last political appointee, the first black woman who got appointed to it, doesn't know what a woman is. Bear that in mind. Right, go ahead. Yeah, Gerard, finish.
However, please hear me out. Understand what affirmative action is, why it's probably needed in Trinidad. That's a whole other story. And why it's
please no.
all over.
Please no.
Please allow me to finish. Allow the point to be made.
Yeah.
Let's answer the constructive debate.
Yeah.
And why in every country where there was historical institutional racism and historical disadvantage to at-risk groups. For instance, lower caste in India. For instance, black people in South Africa. And definitely, for instance, black people in Jim Crow, United States. You have a situation where wealth and opportunities already accumulated, that ends up being accumulated in people who are historically advantaged due to whether we have racist policies, we have segregationist policies, etc. And it goes back to school, it goes back to housing allocation, it goes back to access to government contracts, it goes back to access to economic opportunities. So it's not straightforward by any means in the US. It's a very complicated and nuanced situation. But the point of the matter is you cannot argue that there was not economic oppression against certain groups, especially African American and Native American groups in the US. And the US as a society made efforts to balance those historical inequities by allowing intervention to make sure that the power of generational wealth does not continue to hold those previously disadvantaged or currently disadvantaged groups under control.
Several points on that, Jared. I get your point. Several points on that. First up, I think one of the major issues we have in social policies, and this is being a science guy, this is a major problem I have with social subjects. We don't look at results. Our social policies are not results oriented. Affirmative action has been in play for like 40 years, and the gaps in education since then have only increased. The gaps in finances since then have only increased. And I'm sure that the proponents of the affirmative action law would say that what that means is we need to do it harder. That is counterintuitive. What you are proposing also there, Gerard, is it sounds a lot like something we could come to the surface during the BLM riots in the 2020s, called anti-racism, where one weird guy who is insane, Ibram X. Kendi, has a theory that the only solution for past discrimination is present discrimination, and the only solution for present discrimination is future discrimination. And it seems like people who say things like that, and that's what you're saying there, just by the way, people who say things like that seem not to understand that what you are actually saying is that the government, the state, must always be discriminating against one person or the other. So we're leaving the state with the responsibility. They know how to best balance it back. So here's what happened. Blacks, Africans, were enslaved for a couple hundred years. Indians in Trinidad were indentured laborers for less time than then. What we're going to do now is we're going to have a government of politicians, dishonest, lying, crooked, stealing, thieving politicians out there, and they are going to discriminate against Africans, Indians, whites, and all other racial groups just at the right amount. Perfect amount. There'd be like discrimination day. Ooh, just the right amount of discrimination here to balance things back just to the perfect level. So okay, blacks, you all didn't get everything right, so we'll make sure at SCA all African children get 1.5 marks extra, and the Indians only get 1.2. Are you going to leave that for crooked politicians to do? And somehow we believe that this is going to create a more fair system. Right? My view on this is not saying that that there was not past discrimination. Just now, I do believe that there was past discrimination. The solution for past discrimination is no discrimination now. We cannot fix history. We cannot do it. There was a country. I urge you, Gerard. Just now. I urge you, Gerard.
We can't fix history, but we can't improve on it, because what I wanted to ask Gerard earlier was.
Wait. Let me finish. I just had to get somebody a little silent there. We cannot fix history. The country that tried to do that, KBB, I urge you to go and look at Cambodia and look at the Year Zero project. They had a leader who attempted to fix all of their historical wrongs by going back to Year Zero and starting over, making everything fair. All of the educated people who got educated through the years because of their privilege, we crashed all of their certificates, and let's really do this thing fair. And go and see the death toll of practices as such.
That's not what they did, though, sir. That's not what they did, though. Well, was a cycle. That's not what they did, sir.
The thing is this.
That's not what they did, sir.
You see, Gerard, right before you go training hotel, here's the issue. We somehow believe that the beautiful goals we have for the government is what they're going to do. So we want Dr. Rowley to go in there and discriminate on behalf of Afro-Trinidadians to make the thing fair again. And we believe that somehow when he goes in there, he will do it right. Every human that goes in and attempts to discriminate on behalf of someone does what Pol Pot does. Everyone. Yeah, Trini, Hotep, go ahead.
I saw the ghost of Karl Marx pass my screen. Frederick Engels was here. Frederick Engels.
Yeah, bro.
This is beyond me, bro.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I don't disagree that there's discrimination going on against black people. I'm not disagree with that per se.
Yeah.
But we have understand constitutional law, policies, and how that operates and works. People try to sort of use a broad brush when it comes to constitutional law. No, that constitutional law is a specific thing, and it's written in a specific way. We can't want to use constitutional law for children passing on a stage, on an Anglican stage, and say that is discrimination. That's not how it works. That's not how constitutional law works. So here's the thing. Affirmative action and the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court literally does federal policies and law. Literally. Right? And they either uphold laws or strike it down based on if it's good or bad. The whole point of Roe v. Wade being struck down is because it was bad law. It wasn't protected in the Constitution, and that's the facts. Affirmative action today doesn't make any sense for people that is not in Jim Crow anymore.
Exactly.
And that's sad to say, but it's true. Yes. And here's the funny thing, since affirmative action has been taking place, white women have been benefiting from affirmative action more than black people, and that's ridiculous by very premise. So, and you know what's funny? Ever since the Civil Rights Bill was written, and that's fine, it has never really sort of only applied to black people, and that's the facts. That's how the law has been written. So
it's back in Lincoln days, remember that?
No, the 60s.
Well, not Lincoln days, actually Lyndon B. Johnson and Lyndon B. Johnson.
That evil man.
So he very evil. So the thing about it is this: the bigotry of low expectations looms over black people's head a lot. I don't if black people want to excel, we have to give them the room to excel. We can't just give them free leg ups and then they drop back to be lazy. That's how the Soviet Union fall flat on its face.
Yep.
You give people all this socialism, you know what I'm saying? Listen, Stalin literally killed out many people when he had his oligarchies running the place.
Yeah.
And the people, they want to come to work.
Of course they don't want to.
You want to know why the Berlin Wall fell? Of course. You don't want the Berlin Wall didn't fall because you know it's bad. But no, the Berlin Wall fell because it's no.
Didn't fall because the US won?
No, it fell because the Soviet Union was starving.
Afghanistan?
It fell
Exactly.
It didn't fall because of Afghanistan. It didn't fall because of
It fell because Marxism doesn't work.
Fell. Exactly. The Berlin Wall fell. Listen, do you know how much Russian people, actually Soviet Union people, literally was in the streets telling them, listen, my government is killing me. The Berlin Wall fell because of the people, literally. And listen, nobody wants to starve. So the thing about it is this. I want black people to excel. I want the best of black people to be best. But we can't be great if we are given these false, nebulous nonsense like affirmative action. No. You can't get 100% great if your grade is below par. That don't make sense. That's not how you progress. That's regression.
Correct.
That's poverty. Sounds like poverty to me.
And Hotep, you know, you're channeling much more. You're channeling much more Malcolm X, and that's who I agree with. Like, many people talk about Martin Luther King, and great man in his own right, but I am much more Malcolm X-ish in that. And what you're saying there is much more Malcolm X-ish. What Malcolm was trying to get, he did not want the help. He did not want the civil rights law. You see, what the civil rights law said is nobody could discriminate. Everybody must give something to everybody. He didn't want that. He just wanted that when we create our Black Wall Street, nobody burns it down. When we create Tulsa, nobody destroys it. Let's create our own and you would see that we actually are surpassing in that. He complained that what the civil rights era laws did was they forced black and white society into each other. So there was a white society, there was a black society in the US. And what they did with the civil rights law is they forced them together and they forced the black society under the white society. And now you're telling them that, don't worry, we'll give you the same accolades, while everybody in the country knows, because those records are public, they know that blacks could get 50% lower in their SATs and get accepted into a university. Everyone knows this. And then they're telling you, don't worry, we're letting you in. Come on, come up, come up. Oh, good boy. Who's a good boy? Look at the little graduation. Oh, look at you. Look at the little black boy graduate. No thanks. No thanks. That is insulting, embarrassing, and degrading.
Power for a black man. That is why they killed him. Exactly. That was just so much power for a man, an African American man. That is why they killed him.
Like,
that is why Martin Luther King tried with Kennedy to be peaceful and equal and this and that and whatever it is. Malcolm was like, listen, we are black magic. We have our capable. We are strong. We don't need all your. You understand?
And I kind of agree with the Malcolm X view. You know, Malcolm, our next reason why I like Malcolm, Trini Hotep, you might like this one. Malcolm was pro-gun. Malcolm X made Republicans who love guns.
You know what makes you?
He made Republicans start to put in gun control. Because Malcolm and the Black Panthers, let me just show you this little history. Malcolm and the Black Panthers started to strap up. And listen, okay, you all want to come in our communities, well, we'll protect our communities, and they strap up and patrol the communities. And all of a sudden, KKK couldn't do what they wanted to do, and then they recognize, oh no, the guns are too much out there. That's what I rate. That's what I rate. Do it yourself. I'm not begging for a government handout. I'm not begging for state help. I will make my own universities, and I will get my students qualified in my own universities. Don't give me a little handout into Harvard. That's ridiculous.
Nathan, here's the thing. As I said in the Discord, I lean more into the Malcolm X sort of. I believe in black nationalism, and black nationalism states that very same thing, right? Self-determination for black people. Black nationalism is about black people building their own nation per se, their own thing. Self-determination. Yes, I believe in and I believe that Malcolm, because he's a Muslim, so I believe he was more leaning into a conservative libertarian stance. So the thing is that's what I agree with. I don't agree with this sort of liberal let me just sort of cook the gumbo in a one plate and feel the potatoes and feel nice. No, that's not how it works. You see, I don't think you'll understand that why I speak about Black Wall Street during Jim Crow. Y'all don't understand. There were many Black Wall Streets in America. Thriving communities, thriving black communities. In the middle of segregation, women were getting strung up on ropes, lynched.
Yep.
And how you think they was becoming rich and established? Because they was doing the work. So no, I don't agree to affirmative action. I believe black people could strive because they are good. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, everybody. But just now, I just want to go to affirmative action. Part of Trinidad needing affirmative action. Whom exactly needs the affirmative action? Because you talk real long ago, Gerard. You talk real long.
Let me finish and then you can go. Finish where you go, you know what I mean?
I'm asking politely to rebut.
You will get to.
You will get to me or rebut to everybody else.
Everybody, all of we taking it here. I agree with you.
Let me make my point and then you rebut everybody or you can rebut the point I was making and answer my question. And then I can finish everybody. Right? Okay. First thing first, I have followed this affirmative action in America, right? For the last, for however long I've been following American politics. I said I've never really taken interest in American politics. I find America is a very crazy place. And I only, not only recently, but for a few, probably a year or so, I decided to look at America because I realized we have patterned ourselves in Trinidad and after America. And anything America decides to do, we soon follow, right?
Correct.
This affirmative action thing, you don't understand, at least I can't understand how a person feel good about themselves knowing that the person that they sit next to in a class had to work probably 2-3 times harder than they did. And we're not even talking about the failure rate of these students that get into these colleges that they are not fit for.
Exactly.
You go where you excel. Don't go just because it's a good name, you will end up falling to the side. Plenty of these students, they didn't even get past the first year.
Yep.
Because it was too much work for them. So you're giving them the upper hand in one regard, but in that upper hand is a total handicap to them because they can't keep up, they can't excel, they struggle, and then it amounts to nothing. You don't even have to look at what it will do to the self-esteem. You can't keep up with your classmates, and then that does affect people. A lot of people, it affect young people on the whole. So I think it is not great for people to do, and you don't want to go in a workplace either, and everybody watching you like, yeah boy, that is the race higher. Yeah, we don't know what our qualifications say, but that is we black boy. You really want that?
Nope.
I don't know. I don't want that for myself.
Wait, right before you go, it's 11:51. Yes, Rad, you're going next. Right before everybody going, don't worry, everybody is going. But this is your closing, right, folks? It's 11:51. We're looking to wrap up. So this is your closing, Jared. Rebut all of us, wrap it in a nice bow, present it as a closing argument, so that the judge could say, "I find it in your favor." I am not the judge. Don't worry.
Something that I don't want to be interrupted on. I'm just saying it and we can load it in our thinking for the next day. We are not thriving as a people. There are people who are thriving because they're thriving.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who are excellent because they're excellent. The overall landscape of the diaspora is there are several communities that have been pushed into being a permanent underclass. And part of the reason for it is that whereas groups that have faced injustice have historically been given reparations by the people who have oppressed them, that has been something that has been systematically denied of a people and their descendants who were exported into the Americas for the purpose of slavery and continue to labor under systemic discrimination and a systemic oppression across the Americas, including Trinidad and Tobago. So when we have a situation in Trinidad and Tobago in 2023, where you have in the same Trinidad and Tobago where people become millionaires in their sleep, we have young people. Why are we surprised? The black who are taking contract killings and living unbanked and living outside of the system. It's because there's a whole sect, there's a whole social construct that has suffered from systemic inequality over decades, I would argue over centuries. The political establishment of the West, which is overwhelmingly white and white supremacists, they have refused to tip the scales, whereas slave owners were given reparations, whereas people who were victims of Germany in World War I were given reparations. Reparations are fairly normal except when it comes to black people. So we continue to be in that situation where our communities, and I love what Trini Hotep said, our communities cannot become self-sufficient. Our communities cannot be upgraded because they continue to live in generational poverty while others are continuing to rise and soar because of generational wealth. And it may not be a black versus anybody else problem in Trinidad and Tobago. It might be harder to pinpoint. But the lines are stark if you care to look. So I don't even want to talk about America and the madness. I am saying that in the Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean context, the inequality continues and we have to be careful. We have to do something about it from a policy perspective. If we can't force them to balance the scales, we have to figure out how we find balance, or our underclass is going to continue to destabilize our Caribbean society. My contribution to that tonight. Thank you.
All right, I agree with a good bit in there. I always wonder about some of the claims that that certain communities are in the position they are in because of their historical injustices. I wonder about that claim sometimes when you do comparative studies on those, and like, for example, Caribbean blacks in the United States, they perform better than whites generally speaking. So you wonder, aren't they discriminated against? What are the choices that Caribbean blacks make when they go to the United States that allow them to by and large make more money? Their families have more generational wealth than white families. Or what are the decisions that African blacks make when they go to the United States and the United Kingdom, why Nigerians are one of the wealthier ethnic groups? And that's why, personally, for me, I don't see it as necessarily a fault of oppression or discrimination. Not saying, as Trini Hotep rightfully says, not saying that there is not any discrimination of any kind, because discrimination is always there. But to me, it seems obvious, looking at the results, looking at the consequences of it, seeing history, reading writings from very intelligent people like economist Dr. Thomas Sowell, could probably read some of that, and it seems pretty obvious to me that it's more of a cultural answer. And the answer to fixing culture isn't money. As much as it could seem like the fair thing is to give reparations and give people $1 billion, personally, not negating what you say in how you see it, but for me, I don't see that as working. To me, if the culture is in a state of disrepair, pumping money into it is just probably going to cause more problems. Who is the next one? KB Beroni or Hotep? Who going next?
Anybody?
KB Beroni.
Okay. I was just saying, I did have a couple of questions for Gerard, but I'm not going to ask them tonight, but I will tell you what the questions were, because I'm going to go back to this live. And first and foremost, I have to say that I am on this live to be educated, because I am somebody who appreciates the knowledge. I have a particular conviction to a particular point. My perspective could change based off of the knowledge and the enlightenment I receive. So
very good.
When Gerard was speaking earlier, I did have a question about a WPC who was of the Islam faith. She was Muslim, and there was a controversy about her hijab and wearing her hijab for work, and it is accepted now. It was recognized as a real thing, because you do see track wardens themselves, they wear their hijab. So we have to respect religious beliefs when it comes to certain jobs. And even the U.S. Army, they do respect the fact that they do have Muslims and people of Islamic faith, and they do let them and allow them to have the Quran, regardless of the fact of they were in war with a country who believed in Islam, being Afghanistan and Iraq and whatnot. So reality of the situation is that we do see some type of improvement with regards to religious acceptance. And so I appreciate that, and that's something to look at. Another thing I was going to say with regards to people is that we cannot knock melanin magic. This is why we have Howard University. This is why we have certain institutions that celebrates Black excellence, and regardless, like if they're not just as good, they're better, because you do see Harvard people. There was a controversy where there were people of a certain ethnicity, I ain't gonna say, they faked certain hobbies and extracurricular activities just to get into Harvard, and they had links. It was a controversy to get into Ivy League. You understand? And there were people who generally strived on their merits to get into these schools, and didn't have to fake a whole profile to get into these schools. You understand? They didn't have to commit a whole fraud to do it. I will always say there is discrimination. I fully believe that. I do see it. I believe it. That's where I stand on that. And I think consciously as a nation, like we can't act like everything is just and fine. There is discrimination. There is like cultural and religious beliefs you might have to be conscious of, but regardless, like if you enter a school, like there is an understanding. When you enter a school, there is an understanding. There's a policy. And it's good to know the fact that your child got into the school, but if it's not something that you want to really partake in the rules in, then you do have the options of pulling your child out to the school. You can't necessarily blame these schools. Maybe schools need to be up to date, but at the end of the day, it was a contractual agreement that was placed there first to begin with. It's called orientation, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I'm a firm believer that we should respect religious beliefs, we should respect culture, but culture is a little behind with regards to religious beliefs. So there is some catching up to do. And we still have a lot of work to do. And with regards to all that you're doing, Nathan, I think I always come here. I enjoy the live. So thank you very much, and thanks for having me.
Yep. I'm glad you are here. With the note on people lying about their hobbies and stuff, that actually is part of the problem why they wanted to remove affirmative action. That many schools, like schools in California, when they removed affirmative action to some level, what they did was they demanded that you have to have certain personality traits that compounded upon your academic qualifications. And the reason was that many of those universities were noticing that when they allow only for academic qualifications, something like 60 to 70% of the admissions were only Asians, because Asian culture is really good at getting maximum performance academically out of the children. So what they did was they would have other sides of extracurricular they needed to qualify in to get into the school. And the truth of the matter is, some of that extracurricular activities and the essays and all of that were really discrimination methods in the very first place. So the lies that were told in some of those essays were told because they were discriminatory in and of themselves. So there are reports that, for example, what's her name? Pocahontas in the US, Elizabeth... What's her name? Warren, is it? Elizabeth Warren, a fully looking white woman who placed her ID in her college admin as being native because she has 1024th native inside of her genetic. We know why they do things like that. Yeah, Ronnie, what's up?
Yes. So much things that I wanted to say that, Anyway, closest things I could reach to was on the Asian thing, right? I don't know how much people just watch Vice on YouTube, right? There's some debates and whatever. So they had the Asian debate now, and long and the guys.
I saw that.
The rule, if you look at what it takes to be successful, right? And he listed a few things, you go to school and you do well and you get a good job, you marry, and then you have children and stuff like that. Everybody looked so appalled. Like, how could you even say that? And I say that to say, as Black people, we love to latch on to a lot of the bad things, the trauma that came with slavery. You know that the separated families, that's why the men don't want to be fathers and whatever. Like, okay, great. You know that. So now you know that you should be a father. You should marry a woman instead of having 10,000 women that you're running down. Marry a woman, settle down, send your children to school, educate them, do the things that make people successful. And the man saying that, people took that to mean, why would you say something like that? That is so racist, because that's what they said, right? That was racist. And it's crazy, how is that racist? To want to do or do things that can lead to your success, right? I don't think everything negative is bad. Is black. Sorry, I don't think that everything that has a kind of weird look that should be tied to the black community. We love to hold on to these things that are not necessary. You know, we just like it because it's so us. It's so hood. It's so, you know, we come up from the slums, so we need it still. No, we don't. We want to be successful, do the things that make you successful, and I don't think that it is necessary. Just now, sorry. Yeah.
That's okay.
Something came by, I don't know why. I don't think it is a bad thing to want to be in these places, like to say the affirmative action places. The places that affirmative action would get you into. I just think if you want to be in those places, you need to work harder to be in there. And nothing is wrong with working hard and achieving. That is like, back in the day, that was golden. You work for what you deserve what you work for. Now it's you deserve because you are here, you just go on and you deserve whatever. No, you deserve for what you put in the work for. If you didn't burn that midnight candle, how could you want to achieve anything that somebody who burn the midnight candle, burn the candle at 2 and didn't sleep, didn't eat, whatever? You can't want it. It can't just come because you say you want it. You have to do the work behind it. And black people, I think, suffered a lot from this wanting without doing, because I don't get it. I don't know. It's just not, I don't understand. And I don't think any social movement, I don't think reparations going to help. I think a lot of reparations will be blown out and be back in the juice pocket in a long time. So I don't think it's going to help.
You call that group name there, Rooney. All right, Kanye.
Yeah.
All right, Yeezy. Okay, easy out there. But I agree with you. You know what? One of my favorite quotes regularly, I just randomly tweet this sometimes. Nobody cares. Work harder. That's one of my favorite quotes. I think I'm going to get that printed and placed on a big wall in my house. Nobody cares. Work harder.
I care.
Sorry, I just wanted to...
Go ahead, Ronnie, if you're not finished.
One suggestion to Gerard, right? And a lot of people only like, I would encourage people to spend a day, just one day, and go through life and don't look at anything in a racial way. Like, don't look at, when you see somebody, don't see a black man, don't see an Indian man, just see a man, see a woman, see a child, and see how that forms your day. Because I think a lot of people walk around with this race lens. I always see it be race in people, and it does. I think it does.
You got a quick rebuttal. Go ahead, Gerard. You got a quick rebuttal. Go ahead.
I'm constrained to answer.
All right, understood. But I agree with you, Ronnie.
No, please.
What's that?
Please hear me out on this, please.
Oh.
Please allow me to answer. I'm constrained to answer. I have to answer this.
Okay.
Gerard, cannot and do not have any bias whatsoever in business, in social endeavors of which I am deeply involved. I will help. I will collaborate with people of different ethnic backgrounds with the same passion. And I have demonstrated that. But let me tell you what my position is. And it's a position I think everybody
on this live needs to consider carefully. My position is that I am a member of the African diaspora. I am an Afro-Trinbagonian. I'm an Afro-Caribbean. I'm a Trinbagonian first. I'm a human first. It's not about that. But if I have to identify and I have to claim, and I had to claim it, I'm a black man. And I, as a black man, am concerned that so many of my fellow black people do not understand the game that is being played right under their nose. They don't know where to fit, they don't know where to start. And if they start lessons that others learn in the cradle, we often learn when we're nearly in the grave. And when we learn it, and this is my problem, this is what I'm hearing in this life, we keep it to ourselves. And then we have a problem when we see the other people, we're like, but why they're not doing better? We're really ready to go across the road and say, this is how you handle your finances. This is how you handle your education. This is how you handle your business. And all the other things. We keep it to ourselves because they're supposed to know better. So I say to the lady who said that, and I say to everybody, it's an invitation to evolve our thinking about how we think about ourselves. Because the other groups don't suffer from that disability. The other groups are okay with saying, me being an Indian, liking Indians, is not me being racist. Me being a Chinese, liking other Chinese, it's not like I don't like the black people and them, you know. It's just that it's okay my own. And I want to invite everybody. It's not a matter of answering and I'm making a case for right or wrong. I am just saying at the end of this life, Blanket, thank you for the opportunity to rebut. I am a black person and I like black people. I like everybody, but I like black people, especially because that's my community. And that's okay. I am okay. There are 21 people on this live right now. I could tell you 21 people, like anybody, because Gerald say he like black people, but yes, I say it. I like black people and I want to help us do better. And I invite everybody to consider that. Consider. I will.
No.
Consider that way of thinking of it.
Thank you. I agree with what you're saying. Then nothing is wrong with what you're saying. I like black people too. I like all people, I would hope. And I don't think what you said there is in opposition to what Rooney proposed. And I fully agree with what Rooney proposed. Because something interesting, what you're talking about, there's in-group bias. And all groups have in-group bias. That's not a problem in and of itself. It's what you do with the in-group bias. And I don't think, for example, like what the African diaspora is lacking is in-group bias. We aren't lacking that. The problem is, I think that what we consider as our in-group is a corrupt, toxic culture. So when we have black people from all over the world, and when they talk about expressing their blackness, they're talking about a hairstyle that they saw from black rap American culture. I don't see that as being positive for blackness. That's not black culture. That's American black culture. And I think that American black culture that was developed in the ghettos from the 60s to the 2000s, I think a large section of that is corrupt, toxic, poison, backward, deleterious, regressive. All those words go along with that culture. So what my issue is a lot here, and I try to do this in what I discuss here and even in my teaching, is to allow people to understand, like what you were talking about there, Rooney, where I think what you saw there in that vice panel, and I saw that vice panel with the Asians. Don't worry, Trini Hotep, you're going next. I saw that vice panel. I think what you saw there is the battle that the black American culture lost. The battle where people believe that good qualities equal white supremacy. And I remember I was talking about this in a previous live, and some people were not believing me. They were like, no, nobody says that. Yes, if you look at that vice panel, people were saying that. This this Asian man was saying, okay, the way you get success is you stay in school, you don't have children outside of wedlock, you behave according to these general good standards of living, and you get success. And they were like, oh, how dare you? That's the white supremacy speaking. You see, that's that white adjacency that we see in the Asian community. The model minority myth, that white adjacency, where the reason you seem like the model minority is because you are so close to whiteness. Well, if you consider whiteness behaving properly, then yes, whiteness is a good thing. Because you have now defined behaving properly as whiteness and behaving badly as blackness. What? And I've said this so often.
What are you doing to me tonight, boy? Wow.
I've said this so often.
It's so deep.
It hurts me when I see people say this is black culture. And they talk about something so regressive and deleterious. Twerking is black culture. The black woman can't help themselves because we have that high vibe. I saw somebody say this on Twitter. Black women have higher vibrations, so they can't help themselves. When they hear the music, they can't help but twerk, you know? The higher vibe, like, what?
Look at the Indian culture, some music and chutney music and how they dance and stuff like that, and you look at cat like...
What utter rubbish. Listen, sexually suggestive dancing isn't exclusive to any culture. Every culture had sexually suggestive dancing. And even if your culture had sexually suggestive dancing, that doesn't make it all of a sudden a smart thing to do on the internet. Like, let's be reasonable here. Anyway, let me fully carry this on till 1 o'clock. Go ahead, Trini Hotel. Trini Hotel.
Please go, because this just deep. Yo, later, Gerard, Ronnie. I love this life. Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah, as I say, my name is Trini Hotep. You know what I'm saying? Like, listen. Yes, I'm Afro-Caribbean. I'm Afro-Trinidadian. And what makes Trinidad and Tobago a good place to me, a paradise, is the fact that my ethnicity exists. I have pilau, crab and dumpling, and all the good black foods that come out of the whole thing. So I that's fine with me, right? That's fine. I agree. I get to do that thing. I belong to the black diaspora, the Africa. That's fine, right? But as I regularly do the African thing, African issue and everything, there's an African proverb that says there's no shortcuts to the top of the palm tree. So the thing with me is this, is black people, there are no shortcuts to the top of the palm tree. We must achieve to go to the top of the palm tree the right way, the best way we possibly could. Because I don't think people quite understand that if you all really want to think about it, black people have never been at the bottom forever in the entire history of the world. We were great. We have been great. Like everybody else, we have been great. So
hashtag we was kings.
Yeah, we was kings. So here's what I'm saying. If you all want to rise back to that position, take no shortcuts. Do the work. Serve determination. And that's it, guys. Enjoy your night.
Yeah, Rooney, let me hear what you had to say.
Yeah, I just want to say something from Gerald, who was saying, that's the problem. You are not on us. Why would I want to align myself, put myself in a group with people that are doing the absolute worst in every single arena? You're failing at school, you're big in class, you're not doing it. I am not going to lump myself. I am an I. You see how Trini was up? Trini was up?
No, I am that in itself.
And I'm not going to raise my children to be on us either. My children will be my children, and they will learn to be individuals and follow the right path. I don't need to come and take, you know what? Take the path of least resistance. That's all I just want to do.
wait. Nobody, hey, no rebuttal. Roni, you get the closing word because your name is Roni. Hey, Roni get the closing word. Roni out here since Mindful Live 1, eh? Roni could take the live and go until 2 o'clock if she wants. Roni have credit inside it. So you get the closing word there, Roni. Word up on that. I like that. Create your crowd. Create your tribe. Make your tribe. No one could tell you have to belong to X tribe. You make your tribe and decide with that. I rate it, Rooney, just like I really rated. I didn't reply to that. The statement you made the other day about creating that community on your own, even though it would be difficult, but you still. I rate that too. I rate it, Rooney. All right, people. This has been the Mindful Live.
So one question.
Yeah.
I have one question. How much is selling that stereo for? That is a I can't remember last time.
It's a collectible. It's a collectible key. Those aren't for sale. And I have a nice little collectible small radio here too. I have a nice little collectible. Not for sale.
Gerard, Roni, Trini, hot up. Hey, Nathan, thanks again for a great live.
It was lovely, people.
I was here. Thank you so much for having me, guys. I hope everybody have a blessed night and a great Friday. And Nathan, I'm looking out for you. I'm looking out for them lives, bro. I love it.
I'm glad you do. Alright, people, this has been the Mindful Live Thursday Talks. I'm glad everyone was here. The talk was good as usual. I hope you were educated, informed, or entertained. I certainly was. And I will see you guys again for the next Mindful Live show, which is going to be tomorrow evening. I hope this little flu bug that's trying to harass me disappear by tomorrow. We'd be all full of energy and full of vocal levels that could be thrown better. It was nice though. Nonetheless, I'm glad I came today. I will see you guys again then. Peace. Laters. I am out. Hold it down, people. Be safe.